We're not just talking about money, we're talking about the kind of money that makes you laugh when the rent is due, the kind of money that buys back your time, your freedom, your sanity. And I know, some of you are already rolling your eyes, probably muttering, money isn't everything, or money can't buy happiness. And to those folks I say, where did you hear that? From someone who has neither money nor happiness thought so. Look, this video, it's not for the casual scroller. It is not for the person who clicks just to get angry in the comments. This, my friends, is for the unapologetically ambitious. The ones who crave that rich life, not because you're greedy, but because the alternative, being valued at whatever the market decides you're worth, that, my friends, is terrifying. Let me tell you a little something. Pretty early on in my journey, I had this epiphany, this bone-deep realization that I was not built for the 9-to-5 grind, 8 to 10 hours a day, busting my butt for what? 80 to 150,000 a year, in a job where I owned absolutely nothing, doing work that made my soul shrivel up. No thank you, especially when I could see with my own two eyes, people out there doing incredibly meaningful work, making 100 times that amount, while working a fraction of the hours. Now, I wasn't exactly a prodigy back then, didn't have a ton of value to offer, but I knew, deep down, it was possible. I just had to look, I had to observe, I saw others living a life I desperately wanted, and if they could do it, then there had to be a roadmap, a series of steps, especially in this wild, interconnected world of technology and the internet. I could absolutely take those steps. I might not get the whole shebang, but I could at least wrestle some control over my money. And by extension, my day, my routine, my very mind, my emotions, and most importantly, my time. And here's the kicker. The people who endlessly moralize money, who spiritualize it to death, they simply cannot fathom a life where they aren't completely bound by it. They can't imagine a world where money is a tool, not a master. Now, the unfortunate truth is, I can't give you a step-by-step blueprint. I can tell you what I did, what worked for me, because that's all any of us can really do. Nobody can tell you exactly what you should do. They can only share their own journey. But what I can give you, something I think is infinitely more powerful, are 3 ways to fundamentally rewire your brain, to shift your entire mindset around money. Because that, my friends, is the secret sauce. That's what you need to make the right decisions. To get rich, to make boatloads of cash, to achieve absolutely anything you set your mind to. I'm not here to give you the way. I'm here to give you the tools, the mental frameworks that will empower you to forge your own sustainable path to wealth. I want to install in your mind the beliefs that allow you to feed the right inputs into reality and have wealth, unapologetic, abundant wealth, spit back out as the output. The first, and probably the most profoundly practical way to prime your brain for wealth is to adopt an aspirational hourly rate. This isn't some crazy idea I cooked up in my basement. I snagged this gem from Naval Ravikant, and I'm going to drop a quote from him right here. Set and enforce an aspirational hourly rate. If fixing a problem will save less than your rate, ignore it. If outsourcing a task will cost less than your hourly rate, outsource it. Now for me, my aspirational hourly rate, it was $5,000 an hour. Yes, you heard that right. $5,000 an hour. And I know, that probably sounds absolutely bonkers to most people. And believe me, I'm trying to say this without sounding like an arrogant jerk, which, let's be real, is kind of impossible on the internet. But hear me out. I've reached a point where someone could offer me $5,000 for an hour of my time, and I would, honestly, politely decline. Not because I don't need the money or because I'm somehow above it, but because $5,000 an hour comes with a massive responsibility. It demands intense focus, energy, and the obligation to deliver $5,000 worth of value in 60 short minutes. That's a huge mental and emotional investment, and it pulls my time, my focus, my precious energy away from other things. Things that could potentially make me much more than $5,000 an hour. Because, guess what? I have the knowledge, I have the skills. To do exactly that, it would be quite frankly stupid of me to take that $5,000 gig when I could be doing something that not only has a far greater impact on more people, but also brings in significantly more, because I know exactly how to make that happen. And that, my friends, is the entire point of the aspirational hourly rate. It's not some magic manifestation trick where you just poof your dream rate into existence. No, this is about strategically framing your mind, about training yourself to make decisions that will inevitably lead you to acquiring the knowledge, and taking the actions that will allow you to command that hourly rate. It sharpens your radar. It helps your brain spot and seize opportunities that put you in a position of insane leverage. Let's play a little scenario, a super common one. You buy something on Amazon, say for $50, and it arrives defective or broken. What do? Do you spend 30 to 60 minutes of your precious time wrestling with customer service, packaging it up, driving to the post office to return it? If your answer is yes, then guess what? You're essentially valuing your time at $50 an hour or less. Because if you truly had the knowledge, the skills to make significantly more in that hour, and that $50 wasn't a problem, you wouldn't even think twice. You'd move on, and this is where people with a messed up relationship with money, they just completely lose their minds. They're like, what? You're just gonna waste $50. But you bought it, shouldn't you be furious at the seller? Shouldn't you demand your money back? And to that I say, going through all that hassle, wasting that mental energy, that precious time, that finite focus, that attention, that is so much more valuable than a measly $50. Just reorder the item, and then go out and make more than that. I know. I might sound a little arrogant when I say that, but I'm just trying to hammer home a point that there's a better decision. It's not a bad thing to not return a cheap item, to not chase every single penny. Instead, it's a brilliant opportunity, a spotlight shining on a deeper truth, a problem you can solve, a skill you can acquire that would make you $5,500 or even $1,000 an hour. Because if you were truly operating at that level, returning that item just wouldn't make any logical sense. Now, here's the crucial part. If your aspirational hourly rate doesn't feel impossibly high, if it doesn't feel ridiculously delusional, then you're doing it wrong. Why? Because delusional goals, my friends, they literally rewire your brain. Your brain, right now, as you're listening to me, is constantly rewiring itself based on what you're thinking about, what you're learning. This video, everything you allow into your mind, it shapes who you are. It dictates what you do. When you vividly imagine a better future, it activates the exact same brain networks as if you were already living that future. Every single moment of focused attention, it's a chance to recalibrate your brain, to align it with the person you aspire to become. That's why doom scrollers, and people who carelessly let anything and everything into their environment, both physical and digital, they're essentially digging their own graves, one mind-numbing scroll at a time. And beyond that, here's a little brain hack. Dopamine spikes far more when you're in pursuit of a goal, rather than when you actually achieve it. But that, my friends, is precisely where it gets dangerous. You can visualize your goals all day long, and yes, that absolutely helps with learning. It sets the stage, but you absolutely must couple that visualization with real-world challenge. You have to get in the game to solidify that knowledge, to make it stick. Otherwise, you fall into the trap of mental masturbation, which is basically telling everyone about your grand plans, but never actually doing anything about them because you already got your dopamine hit from the storytelling, the sweet spot, the golden zone for real, world challenge, the kind of challenge that carves your visualizations into reality and makes that aspirational hourly rate truly tangible is around 85% difficulty. Not so high that it paralyzes you with anxiety, but not so low that you get bored. This is brilliant because the stress, the good stress from this progressive overload of challenge, it floods your system with norepinephrine, which supercharges your learning. It helps you adapt and transform into that powerful new state of mind. So the bottom line is, you can't just think about your aspirational hourly rate and expect to get rich. You have to make difficult, strategic decisions with that rate firmly in mind. And the easiest way to start, seriously, just stop returning that $50 item. You'll be absolutely fine. Trust me now. The second monumental truth to unlocking massive wealth is that the concentration of force is the only way to get rich. Period, full stop. If you genuinely want to get rich, it has to be your number one, overwhelming, all-consuming desire. I remember watching a video by Ali Abdaal about how to get rich, and in the first 5 minutes, he almost sheepishly admitted something profound. He said, honestly, if you want to get rich, you kind of have to be obsessed with it. And when I first heard that, my initial reaction was, nah, that can't be right. But then, I sat with it, I mulled it over, and I realized he was absolutely 100% right. That's exactly what I did, and I'm going to be vulnerable here for a moment. I think I've been kind of hiding from that truth. I was undeniably obsessed with making money for a long time, but I never really labeled it as such because, let's be honest, that just sounds so shallow. Oh, you have to become obsessed with getting rich. But in reality, what was happening? I was learning, I was growing, I was relentlessly acquiring new skills. I was becoming a better person, a more capable human being. And in many cases, that's what getting rich is for. It is about becoming such an exceptional individual, providing so much undeniable value that you can't help but attract wealth. So for those of you who have this mental block, this hang-up in your mind, that getting rich is bad, that's just a direct association. A limiting belief society has hammered into you. Maybe your parents, maybe your pastor, everyone telling you, oh, you don't need to get rich, you don't have to do that. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of your mind, you feel that it's not true. You're learning these skills, you're doing great things, you're helping other people, whether it's in business or any other endeavor, you're exchanging massive value. But the person projecting those beliefs onto you, they have this bizarre notion that it's somehow evil to engage in a mutually beneficial transaction. And frankly, I think that says a lot more about them than it does about you. So yes, We absolutely must become obsessed with getting rich. We need that laser-sharp concentration of force, because you keep pushing, you keep building until it becomes second nature. Think about a professional basketball player, right? They practice relentlessly. They've been obsessed with basketball for so long that shooting three-pointers over and over again. It takes virtually no mental energy, no conscious effort. They've achieved like a 99% success rate. And if getting rich is analogous to becoming a pro basketball player, making 50% of your shots, that's just not going to cut it. You'll never make it to the NBA. You have to give it your absolute all. You have to become utterly obsessed so that you can go pro. Now, you can still make a lot of money. There is a spectrum here, right? There's super extraordinarily rich, and then there's comfortably well off, and both goals are perfectly valid. But if your goal, your burning desire, is to get rich, and that's a perfectly viable goal because it's not about the outcome. It is about the incredible journey. It's about the person you become in the process. Then that's what you need to do. You must be obsessed with it to reach that highest echelon. Now I hear you. But what about going out? What about enjoying life? What about being social? Or chasing this Western notion of happiness, which is just an endless parade of fleeting dopamine hits that creates momentary euphoria? That, my friends, is not what true happiness is. Happiness is being content. It is being calm. It is being in a good mood. It's not constant euphoria. And look, you can absolutely do all those things. You can go out, you can be social, you can chase those fleeting highs. But here's the unvarnished truth. You're not going to get truly wealthy because it's simply not your priority. You're prioritizing those things over the rigorous, demanding path it takes to achieve true wealth, and that's perfectly okay. You don't have to have the goal of getting rich, but many people do, and that's valid. You don't need to project your goals and your beliefs onto them. Someone who doesn't make wealth, their number one priority, they're just not going to get rich. That doesn't mean you can't invest a little money in the stock market over 40 years and build some level of wealth. But the people who are truly driven to get rich, they don't want to wait 40 years. Because they understand that with the right knowledge, the right strategy, they can achieve that wealth 3 decades earlier. Another crucial insight here is that making getting rich your absolute priority. It doesn't make your life worse, as many people mistakenly believe. It actually makes your life infinitely better. Just think about it. Does a professional athlete have a terrible life? Probably not, right? Because they're doing what they love. Most of the time, they're operating at that optimal level of challenge. They're competing, they're playing a game, they're having an absolute blast. Their entire life revolves around their primary passion. And that is not a bad thing. You don't see a bodybuilder hating their life because they eat healthy food and meticulously train in the gym. That's what they want to do. That's what makes them happy. Just because they're not playing video games all day, or stuffing their face with junk food, or indulging in the finer things that you might perceive as good doesn't mean they aren't happy. In fact, they're likely far happier than the average person. Because if you truly understand psychology and flow states,